The plastic chair sticks to my thighs through the hospital gown. I've been counting my breaths since the orderly left, because counting is what keeps me tethered when the world goes thin. The recruitment bay used to be Ward 7's group therapy room. Same water-stained ceiling tiles, same bolted-down furniture, but now there's a naval eagle painted over the suicide prevention poster. Cassian Wilson. The man reading my file wears navy blacks with a collar tab I don't recognize, double crescents over a star. Treatment-resistant derealization. 3 facilities in 5 years. Numerous medication failures. He looks up. His eyes are the flat grey of morning rain. Perfect. I stop counting. Perfect for what? For surviving where others can't. He sets down the file and extends his hand. Chaplain Operator Havel. I oversee anchor protocols for Jump Cadre, Task Force Helios. Jump Cadre. The rumours in the ward were true then. The military really is recruiting from psychiatric facilities. I don't take his hand. The nurses said you need broken people for your program. They wouldn't say why. Not broken. Havel withdraws his hand without offence. Pre-adapted. Tell me, when your episodes peak, what do you experience? The clinical distance in his voice is familiar. I've described this to dozens of doctors. Everything becomes remote, like I'm watching myself from outside. The world feels fake, like a stage set that might collapse if I push too hard. And how do you manage it? Counting. Texture. I run my thumb along the chair's edge, finding the rough seam where plastic meets metal. Small, real things. Havel produces something from his pocket, a worn brass coin, smooth except for a raised ridge around the edge. He places it on the table between us. Pick it up. The coin is heavier than expected, warm from his pocket. The ridge bites into my thumb when I press it. That's an anchor coin, he says. Standard issue for navigation personnel. Now, I need you to hold it while I run a simple test. He pulls out a device like a thick pen, clicks it twice. A low hum fills the air, not quite sound, more like pressure against my eardrums. The room tilts without moving. My hands feel too large, then too small, then like they belong to someone else. I know this feeling. It's the dissociation starting, that sideways slide out of my own skin. But the coin's ridge is still there, still sharp against my thumb. I press harder, let it ground me. Good. Havel clicks the device off. The pressure releases. Your tolerance is better than expected. Tolerance to what? To altered perception states. FTL travel doesn't work the way the physics textbooks claimed it would. We don't punch holes through space or ride wormholes. We collapse the perception of distance. The mind processes the universe differently during a jump, sees scales and dimensions it was never meant to comprehend. Most people who experience it go catatonic, but people like you, who already know how to function when reality feels unmoored. He gestures at my file. You can survive it, navigate through it, guide others. Guide them where? Wherever the Navy needs them. He stands, walks to a medical cart I hadn't noticed, returns with a plastic bracelet cutter and a set of naval identification tags. The question is whether you want to stay here, cycling through medications that don't work or serve a purpose. The psychiatric bracelet, my name, my patient ID, 3 years of wearing different versions of the same thing, falls away with one squeeze of the cutters. Havel hands me the tags. Your training starts immediately, he says. Get dressed. First jump in 6 hours. He pauses at the door. Those who freeze, we flush. Back here, back to the wards. Don't freeze, Wilson. The door clicks shut. 6 hours in navy blacks feels like 6 minutes. The uniform's stiff fabric chafes against my collarbone as I follow a narrow corridor deeper into the UNS Vigil's belly. My escort, a junior officer who hasn't spoken since collecting me from the recruitment bay, stops at a reinforced hatch marked Jump Chamber 3. Wilson, you're with Tam, she says, checking her tablet. Buddy system for first jump. You anchor each other. The chamber is smaller than I expected, maybe 20 feet across, with acceleration couches arranged in a circle facing outward. No windows. The walls are lined with what looks like honeycombed padding, and there's a subtle vibration in the floor. 5 other recruits are already strapped in. The one next to the empty couch is younger than me, maybe 22, with dark skin and hands that won't stop moving, tapping his thighs, adjusting his straps, touching the anchor coin hanging from his neck. "You Wilson? I'm Tam. They said you're from Ward 7. "Yeah." I settle into the couch, start working through the 5-point harness. The straps are worn smooth from use. "I was in Riverside, acute anxiety disorder with psychotic features." He says it like a confession. "You?" "Derealization." I find my own anchor coin in my chest pocket, run my thumb along its ridge. "Chronic." A woman in navy blues enters, older, weathered, with lieutenant commander's insignia. She moves to the central console. "I'm jump operator Scott. In approximately 3 minutes, we'll initiate a training jump. Quarter light year traverse. You've been selected for this program because your minds already understand that reality is negotiable. That's about to become literal." Tam's breathing speeds up. "What happens if you freeze? We pull you out and send you back. If you hold your anchor and maintain buddy contact, you'll be fine." Scott begins flipping switches. The vibration in the floor intensifies. "Remember your protocols. Tactile anchor, breath count, buddy verification. When the horizon opens, you'll see things your brain can't process. Don't try to understand it. Just count, hold, and breathe." The lights dim to amber. A new sound builds, like wind through a tunnel. My dissociation symptoms usually creep in slowly, but this is different. The air starts to feel too thick and too thin simultaneously. "Initiating in 10, Scott announces. 9, 8. Tam grabs my wrist. His palm is soaked with sweat. 7, 6. I press the anchor coin harder. The ridge cuts into my thumb. 5, 4. The honeycombed walls begin to glow, or maybe that's my eyes playing tricks. 3, 2. "I can't," Tam starts. 1, jump! The universe tilts. No, tilt isn't right. The universe reveals it was always tilted, and we've been standing sideways our whole lives without knowing it. The walls stretch away and fold back simultaneously. I can see the molecular structure of the air, each nitrogen and oxygen molecule spinning in place, and beyond that, the quantum foam where possibility and actuality blur. The chamber is infinite and microscopic. I am here and elsewhere and nowhere. This is what madness feels like from the inside. Tam's gone silent. His grip on my wrist is rigid, locked. His eyes are open but seeing nothing, pupils dilated to black pools. "Tam!" My voice sounds like it's coming from outside my skull. "Count with me." Nothing. I shift my hand, press my anchor coin against his palm. 1. The ridge of the coin is real. It has weight, temperature, texture. 2. Tam's fingers twitch. 3. His lips move, no sound. 4. A whisper now matching me. 5. The universe snaps back like a rubber band. I'm in the chamber. The walls are just walls. Tam is gasping, tears streaming down his face. But he's here. He's conscious. He's counting. "Jump complete," Scott announces. She's studying readouts on her console, eyebrows raised. "Interesting." The chamber's main hatch opens. A woman in Commodore's insignia stands in the doorway. Asian features, silver streaking her regulation short hair. Commodore Solace, if the nameplate's right. She's looking directly at me. "Wilson, H-index 0.3 on first exposure." She glances at her tablet. "That's unprecedented. Flag him for advanced navigation training." She's gone before I can respond. Scott is already prepping for the next group. Tam finally releases my wrist. There are nail marks in my skin. "You saved me," he whispers. I pocket the anchor coin. Advanced navigation. Whatever that means, I've just been marked for it. 12 jumps in 3 weeks. My H-index climbed from 0.3 to 0.7, each increment marking another layer of reality I can't quite put back in place. The summons to command deck comes during morning hygiene. A junior officer standing outside the shower stalls, pretending not to notice Tam's tremor has gotten worse, or that half our intake group is gone, flushed back to their wards after freezing. The conference room sits behind the bridge, all polished steel and tactical displays. I've never been this far up in the ship's hierarchy. Commodore Solace stands at the head of the table, studying a holographic projection of jump routes. Chaplain Operator Havel sits to her right, that same flat grey stare from recruitment. They're not alone. 3 other officers I don't recognize, and someone in medical insignia standing near the door. Wilson. Solace doesn't look up from the projection. 12 successful jumps, 0 anchor failures. You've guided 4 frozen navigators back to functionality. Just doing what I was trained for, ma'am. No. She meets my eyes. You're doing what you were selected for. There's a difference. Havel opens a tablet, slides it across the table. The display shows brain scans, mine, labelled with dates corresponding to each jump. The patterns shift and spiral in ways I don't understand, but one thing's clear. They're getting more complex. Your neurological response to horizon exposure is unique, Havel says. Most navigators develop random scarring patterns. Yours are organized, almost like your brain is learning to read the horizon instead of just surviving it. Is that good? That depends, Solace says, on your definition of good. She expands the holographic display. A new route appears, longer, more complex, tagged with red warning indicators. The Lacale Gate, strategic choke point, 36 light-years out. We need to establish a stable jump corridor before our enemies do. It requires 3 sequential jumps with precise navigation between each. I study the route. The math alone makes my head hurt. Compound angles, gravitational lensing corrections, something called horizon drift compensation. 3 sequential jumps would push my H-index over 2.0, I say. That's the permanent threshold. Yes. Solace's voice is perfectly neutral. It is. The room goes quiet. Even the air recyclers seem to pause. You're asking me to volunteer for permanent brain damage. Havel leans forward. We're informing you that you've already been selected. Your specific pattern tolerance makes you the only navigator who can hold the corridor shape long enough for fleet passage. Without you, we lose Lacale. Without Lacale, we lose the war. And if I refuse, then you return to Ward 7 with a diagnosis of service incapacitation. Solace closes the projection. Indefinite commitment. No more attempts at treatment. Just maintenance. The medical officer by the door shifts slightly. I catch her name tag. Morgan. When? I ask. 48 hours. Enemy reconnaissance is already probing the approach vectors. Solace stands. You'll receive full mission briefing tomorrow. Dismissed. I turn to leave, but Havel's voice stops me. Wilson, the horizon rewards purity of purpose. Doubt contaminates the corridor. Remember that. The conference room door seals behind me. I'm 3 steps down the corridor when someone catches my arm. Dr. Morgan, the medical officer from the meeting. Walk with me, she says quietly. We move toward the lift. She palms something into my hand. A small medical ampule, unmarked. Neural stabilizer, she whispers. Experimental, not approved. But when your anchors fail, and they will fail at that exposure level, this might buy you 10 minutes of clarity. The lift arrives. She steps inside, holds the door. I've seen what happens to navigators who cross 2.0. They don't come back. Not really. But maybe if you're as unique as they think, you can stay yourself long enough to finish the mission. She releases the door. Or long enough to choose not to. The lift closes between us. I'm left holding the ampule, its contents clear as water. 24 hours until Lacale, and we're practicing corridor establishment. Jump chamber 3 again, but this time the configuration's different. Extra monitoring equipment, a direct feed to fleet command, and Scott has been replaced by someone with more ribbons on their chest. The new operator introduces himself as Lieutenant Commander Grant, a specialist in multi-vector navigation. His hands shake slightly as he calibrates the console. Even the operators burn out eventually. Tam's here, strapped into the adjacent couch. His tremor has spread from his hands to his jaw, a constant small movement, like he's always on the verge of speaking. 3 other navigators fill out our circle: Park, Delacroix, and someone new whose name I didn't catch. We've lost 6 more from our original intake. The Navy keeps pulling from the wards, feeding the machine. "This is a mapping run," Grant announces. "We're establishing corridor parameters for follow-on vessels. Wilson, your primary navigator. The rest of you maintain anchor formation around him." My H-index sits at 0.9 after yesterday's preparatory jumps. Each decimal point upward brings new symptoms: peripheral shadows that move when I turn my head, moments where I lose track of whether I'm sitting or standing. "Initiating in 30 seconds, Grant says. "Wilson, once we're in the horizon, you need to hold the corridor shape for minimum 3 minutes real time. That's enough for us to capture the mathematical framework. 3 minutes. In horizon time, that could feel like seconds or years." "What happens if the shape changes?" I ask. "Then any ship following our path ends up somewhere else." He doesn't elaborate on what that means. The countdown begins. I press Morgan's ampule in my pocket. Not yet. Save it for when I really need it. This time, the transition hits harder. My H-index is high enough that reality doesn't snap away. It peels, layer by layer, showing me the mathematics underneath everything. The jump chamber becomes a probability cloud. Tam exists in 17 different positions simultaneously, each one trembling at a different frequency. The walls breathe with cosmic radiation patterns I can suddenly read like text. And there, the corridor. A tunnel through folded space-time, visible only because my brain has learned to interpret dimensions it was never meant to perceive. It's beautiful and terrible, a wound in reality that we're holding open by willpower and damaged neurons. "Corridor identified," I hear myself say, though I'm not sure if I'm speaking or thinking. "Establishing parameters." The shape wants to collapse, to heal itself. I push back, hold it steady, count my breaths, but the numbers come out wrong. 1, 2, 7, -3. Time isn't working properly. Tam's voice reaches me from somewhere, counting his own sequence, and I use it as a lifeline. 1 minute mark, Grant announces. His voice stretches like taffy. The corridor ripples. I can feel other navigators' minds touching its edges. Not just my team, but navigators from other ships, other missions, maybe other times. We're all connected through the horizon, a network of broken minds holding reality open for the intact ones to pass through. 2 minutes. My hands are shaking now. No, not shaking. They're existing in multiple states, each one trying to hold a different version of the anchor coin. I focus on the ridge, that single constant line of brass, and force my hands to converge on one reality. 2 minutes 30. Something's wrong. The corridor is holding, but I'm losing something else. What day is it? How long have I been in this chamber? Was I always here? 3 minutes, corridor captured, ending jump. Reality reassembles, but it's like a puzzle with pieces forced into the wrong spots. I'm in the chamber. My chronometer says 3 minutes have passed, but my water bottle is empty. I had filled it before the jump. A wave of dizziness hits me, and my throat feels like sandpaper. I'm not just thirsty, I'm parched, and a dull, cramping hunger gnaws at my stomach, as if I've missed 2 meals. Wilson. Grant is staring at his displays. You held the corridor for 3 minutes ship time, but your vitals show you experienced 6 hours subjective. Emergency transmission cuts him off, priority override. The main display activates, showing another jump chamber on a different ship. The navigator is seizing, blood running from their nose. "This is UNS Defiance requesting immediate assistance," a panicked voice transmits. "Navigation failure during corridor entry. We're stuck between points, can't find the exit. Request emergency guide. Any navigator receiving, please. Grant looks at me. My H-index reads 1.2. Another jump this soon will push me closer to permanent damage. Prep for immediate jump, I say. Same configuration. I'll guide them through. Tam grabs my arm. Wilson, you can't! Prep for immediate jump, I repeat. No time for protocol. Grant bypasses the standard prep sequence, and we're back in jump configuration within 90 seconds. The straps bite into my shoulders. I hadn't loosened them from the last jump. My anchor coin is slick with sweat. The emergency transmission from the Defiance keeps repeating, their navigator's voice getting more fractured with each loop. Wilson, you'll need to establish voice contact once you're in, Grant says. They can't see the corridor anymore. Their navigator's H-index spiked past threshold. He's lost in his own perceptions. How do I guide someone who can't perceive the same reality? You don't guide the navigator. You guide the ship's operator through the navigator's responses. Like using a broken compass, you learn which way it points wrong and adjust. Morgan's ampule presses against my ribs. Not yet. Establishing connection with Defiance, Grant announces. Jump in 5, 4. Wilson! Tam's voice urgent. Your nose! I touch my upper lip. Blood. The iron taste fills my mouth. 3, 2, jump! This time I don't resist the transition. I let the horizon flood through me, and immediately I understand why the Defiance is trapped. They're caught in a probability loop, trying to exist in multiple positions simultaneously because their navigator can't choose which reality to inhabit. Defiance, this is Navigator Wilson on the vigil. I need you to respond. Static. Then, this is Lieutenant Commander Barrett. Our navigator, Jones, he's speaking in numbers. Just numbers. I can feel Jones's mind through the horizon, a shattered prism refracting reality into incomprehensible fragments. His H-index must be past 2.5. He's not coming back. I need you to repeat exactly what he says. Don't interpret, just repeat. 7, 7, -4, red, 7, 7. He's trying to describe coordinates, but his brain can't process them normally anymore. 7. He's seeing 7 versions of the same coordinate point. -4. We need to move backward through the sequence. Red. That's a warning. There's something at those coordinates we shouldn't approach. Tell Jones to breathe with you. Count from 1 to 5, slowly. As Barrett counts, I feel the Defiance's position solidify slightly. The probability cloud condenses. I can almost see their corridor now. It's adjacent to ours, twisted around itself like a Mobius strip. On my mark, full reverse thrust for exactly 3 seconds, I tell Barrett. Don't question it. Mark. Through the horizon, I feel the Defiance lurch backward along their twisted path. The loop begins to unwind. But something else is happening. My vision is splitting. I'm seeing from my position and from Jones's simultaneously. 2 realities overlapping, trying to merge. My H-index monitor screams a warning. 1.9. Almost there, I say, though I'm not sure who I'm reassuring. The ampule. I need the ampule. But my hands won't move properly. They're experiencing different time streams. In one, I'm reaching for my pocket. In another, I've already injected it. In a third, the ampule never existed. 2 more seconds, I manage to say. The Defiance breaks free. Their corridor snaps back to normal space-time, and they're gone, safely translated to their destination. But I'm still split, still seeing multiple versions of the jump chamber. Tam is young and old simultaneously. Grant exists and doesn't exist. Ending jump, Grant says, but his voice comes from 3 different directions. Reality collapses back together, but it's wrong. I can see the horizon even with my eyes closed now. A constant shimmer at the edge of everything, like the world is a painting and someone's peeling back the canvas. H-index 2.1, Grant reads. You've crossed permanent threshold. I try to stand, but my legs don't agree on which direction is down. Tam catches me before I fall. Wilson, your eyes. I catch my reflection in the chamber's polished wall. My pupils are dilated unevenly, one wide, one narrow, and in the wide one, I can see something moving. A map. The door bursts open. Chaplain Operator Havel enters, his face flushed with urgency. "Enemy reconnaissance just hit Lacaille Gate," he announces. "They're attempting to establish their own corridor. We jump in 12 hours, or we lose everything." 12 hours. I can barely track which reality I'm in, and they want me to navigate the most complex corridor in the war. Havel looks at my H-index reading and smiles that cold, flat smile. "Perfect. The more broken, the better you'll see what needs to be done." 6 hours until Lacaille. The medical bay is too bright after the dim corridors, fluorescent panels making my split vision worse. Every surface exists in duplicate. One version real, one bleeding through from the horizon. Dr. Morgan has me sitting on an examination table while she runs scans I can't quite focus on. The neural imaging screen shows my brain like a storm system, patterns swirling where there should be stable regions. "Your recruitment wasn't random." Morgan sets down her tablet, pulls a stool close. "Command mapped psychiatric profiles against horizon response patterns for 2 years before they started pulling from the wards. They knew exactly what they were looking for. Broken people? Specific kinds of broken. Your derealization, the way you naturally dissociate from reality, it creates a buffer. But that's not what makes you special." She brings up another scan, this one overlaid with mathematical projections. "Your particular pattern, the way your brain misfires, it's almost identical to the corridor structure we need for Lacaille. You're not just reading the horizon, you're resonating with it." Tam is here too, sitting in the corner, his tremor worse than ever. Since we crossed into the medical bay, he hasn't stopped watching me, like I might disappear if he looks away. "So I'm what, a tuning fork?" I ask. "More like a lens. The damage shapes you into something that can focus the horizon in ways intact minds can't. Command knew this. Havel knew this. They recruited you specifically because your breakdown pattern would match Lacaille. The ampule, Morgan's ampule, sits on the medical tray between us, still unused. She notices me looking at it. "It won't help now. Your H-index is too high. The stabilizer would just lock you between states, make things worse." "How much worse can it get?" She pulls up a video file. "This is Navigator Morrison, H-index 3.5. The screen shows a man in a medical restraint chair. His eyes move independently, tracking things that aren't there. When he speaks, it's in overlapping voices, like he's having 3 conversations across different timelines. His hands age and de-age as I watch, skin wrinkling and smoothing in waves. "He guided a fleet through a contested corridor last month," Morgan says. "Saved 4,000 lives. Now he experiences every moment of his existence simultaneously. Past, present and future collapsed into a single endless now." "Turn it off." She does. The silence stretches until Tam breaks it. "Don't do it." His voice is steady for the first time in weeks. "Wilson, please. We're not just tools for them to use up. If I don't, the enemy takes Lacaille. The war shifts. How many psychiatric wards get emptied then? How many more Morrisons? That's not your responsibility. It is now." I pull my anchor coin from my pocket. The ridge is worn smooth from my thumb. "They shaped me into this. Fine. But I decide how to use it." Morgan stands, begins preparing something on her tray. "If you're going through with this, there's something else. The final jump. You won't be able to maintain anchors. Your perception will be too fractured. You'll need someone else to anchor you. Someone whose voice you trust." I look at Tam. He's shaking his head, tears running down his face. "I can't watch you become like Morrison." "You won't." I hold out the anchor coin to him. "You'll count for me. Keep me tethered to something real while I navigate." He doesn't take it. "What if I freeze? What if I fail?" "You won't. I pulled you through that first jump when you couldn't even see straight. Now I need you to do the same for me. You can do this." Tam's hand closes around the coin. His tremor stops for just a moment. "Your brain scan shows something else," Morgan says quietly. "The pattern isn't just similar to Lacaille's corridor. It's inverse. like a key and a lock. When you navigate that corridor, you won't just be guiding ships through it. You'll be completing it, becoming part of it, permanently. I don't know. No one survived an inverse pattern navigation before. An intercom activates. Havel's voice. All navigation personnel to jump chamber 1. Final briefing in 30 minutes. I slide off the examination table. My legs disagree about which floor is real, but I manage to stay upright. Wilson. Morgan catches my arm. Whatever you see in there, whatever the horizon shows you, remember you're still human. That's what they forget. The patterns, the damage, the mission, underneath it all, you're still human. Am I? I head for the door. I guess we'll find out. Tam follows, my anchor coin clutched in his fist. Behind us, Morgan watches our reflection in the medical bay's polished door. Or maybe she's watching our other selves, the ones we're about to leave behind. If I'm going to burn, I tell Tam as we walk, I'll steer the flame. Jump Chamber 1 is 3 times the size of the practice chambers, built for fleet coordination jumps. The acceleration couches form concentric circles. Navigation team in the center, command staff in the middle ring, fleet coordinators on the outer. I count 40 people, maybe more. My fractured vision makes it hard to be sure who's real and who's bleeding through from another timeline. Commodore Solace stands at the primary console with Grant and 2 other operators I don't recognize. Above us, holographic displays show the entire fleet formation, 12 ships holding position, waiting for us to carve their path through space-time. The enemy signatures flash red at the edge of sensor range, less than an hour from Lakay. Wilson. Havel approaches with a medical technician carrying anchor restraints, padded straps designed to prevent navigators from harming themselves during extreme dissociation. We'll need to secure you properly for this duration. No restraints. I move past him to the center couch. I can't navigate if I'm fighting against bindings. The protocol was written for H index below 2. I settle into the couch, leave the harness loose. I'm at 2.1 and climbing. Your protocol is already broken. Tam takes the adjacent position, my anchor coin visible in his closed fist. His tremor has stopped completely, fear replaced by purpose. The other navigators arrange themselves around us. Park, Delacroix, 3 others whose names blur together in my fractured perception. Fleet standing by, Grant announces. Enemy vessels approaching Lakale Terminus. We have 1 shot at this corridor. Solace steps forward. Wilson, you'll guide us through 3 sequential jumps. First to establish entry vector. Second to traverse the main corridor. Third to lock the exit point before the enemy can claim it. Total exposure time, 12 minutes. Tam will count for me, I say. When I can't track reality anymore, his voice is the anchor. That's not approved. Neither was recruiting from psychiatric wards, but here we are. The chamber lights dim. The vibration builds in the floor, but stronger this time, like the entire ship is breathing. Through the horizon bleed, I can already see the corridor forming, an inverse spiral that matches the broken patterns in my brain. Final systems check, Grant calls out. Navigation, confirm readiness. Park ready. Her voice is steady. Delacroix ready. His isn't. The others confirm in sequence. Then it's my turn. Wilson ready. I look at Tam. Count starts at 1 when we jump. No matter what happens, don't stop counting. The main display shows enemy ships accelerating toward Lakale. We're out of time. Initiating jump sequence, Grant announces. All stations, prepare for extended exposure. I close my eyes, but the horizon is already there, waiting behind my eyelids. Morgan was right. The pattern isn't just similar to my brain, it's calling to it. Lock and key. 2 pieces of something that should never have been separated. The countdown reaches its end. My nose starts bleeding again, iron on my lips, warmth on my chin. My H-index monitor screams warnings, but someone shuts it off. I'll bring you back, Tam whispers. I promise. The universe doesn't tilt or fold or collapse. It opens. Like an eye that's been closed since the beginning of time, reality opens and looks at itself through me. I'm not in the corridor. I am the corridor. Every molecule of my consciousness stretches across light years, feeling the shape of space-time like skin. The fleet exists inside me, 12 ships cradled in neurons that span solar systems. Tam's voice begins distant but clear, a steady rhythm beneath everything. His counting becomes my heartbeat, marking time in a place where time doesn't exist. The enemy ships are sparks of hostile intent, trying to force their own pattern onto Lacaille, but they're using intact minds, hammering at the corridor like it's a door to break down. They don't understand. It's not a door. It's a wound that needs the right kind of damage to pass through. I guide the fleet into the first jump. They trust me to know the way. We move through my synapses, ride the misfiring patterns that Morgan identified. The enemy tries to follow, but their navigators aren't broken enough. The corridor rejects them like an immune response. Second jump, deeper into the horizon. I can feel other navigators throughout history, everyone who's ever touched this space. Morrison is here, experiencing his eternal now. Jones, split between realities. Hundreds of others, their minds preserved in the horizon's memory like insects in amber. They whisper to me, warnings and welcomes both, as Tam's count continues in the background. Something's wrong. I'm losing cohesion. Not fragmenting like Morrison, dissolving, becoming the corridor so completely that there might not be anything left to pull back. Tam's voice is the only thing marking the boundary between self and space. His numbers like breadcrumbs leading home through an infinite forest. Third jump, the final lock. The fleet needs to anchor here, claim Lacaille before the enemy can establish their own pattern. But as we enter the final phase, the enemy navigator finds me. Not my body, but my consciousness spread across the corridor. They try to force their pattern over mine, to rewrite the path. But they're using standard protocols, fighting the horizon instead of joining it. I don't fight back. I dissolve further, let myself become nothing but the path itself. The enemy navigator screams. I feel it through the horizon, and pulls back. They can't follow where I've gone. No one can. The fleet locks into position. Lacaille Gate is ours. The mission is complete, but I can't find my way back. I'm stretched too thin, dispersed across too much space. This is how it ends. Not with madness, but with dissolution. Tam's counting grows more urgent, and I realize he's not just counting anymore. He's calling my name between the numbers, his voice cracking. Wilson, come back. Follow my count. Remember the coin. Remember that first jump when you taught me to count. Come back. I feel something solid. Tam's hand pressed against mine where he's placed it. Skin and warmth and the pulse of blood beneath. Real things. Human things. His counting becomes a rope I can follow, each number pulling me closer to myself. Jump complete, someone says. Maybe Grant. Maybe God. Wilson. Wilson. Respond. I open my eyes, but I can't tell if I'm seeing the chamber or the horizon or both. The recovery ward smells like antiseptic. I know I'm here because Tam tells me I'm here, his voice a constant anchor in the chaos of my perception. 3 days since Lacaille, they say, though time moves differently for me now. Sometimes I'm still in the corridor, guiding fleets through probability spaces. Sometimes I'm in all the moments of my life simultaneously. 5 years old and terrified. 23 and institutionalized, now and forever dissolving into the horizon. Wilson, look at me! Tam's face swims into focus, or what I think is focus. He exists in 3 versions, one young, one old, one exactly as he should be. I try to pick the middle one. Dr. Morgan is here. She needs to run some tests. Morgan's voice comes from somewhere to my left, though she appears to be standing on my right. Can you tell me what you're seeing right now? Everything. The word comes out layered, like I'm speaking in harmony with myself. The wall is solid and permeable. You're here and in your office and home sleeping. Tam is counting even though his mouth isn't moving. She makes notes on a tablet. Your H-index is... we can't actually measure it anymore. The scale stops at 4 and you're beyond that. But you're still coherent. Still you. Am I? I try to sit up, but my body disagrees with itself about which direction that is. Tam steadies me with hands that feel absolutely real, the only things that do. Morrison couldn't even speak by now. Morrison didn't have an anchor. Morgan gestures to Tam. He's been here the entire time, counting when you drift, talking when you can listen. It's keeping you tethered to linear time, mostly. The door opens. Commodore Solace enters with Harville and someone else, young, maybe 19, with the distinctive tremor of acute anxiety disorder. Fresh from the wards. Wilson. Solace's voice carries the weight of ceremony. The mission was a complete success. Lacale Gate is ours. The enemy fleet retreated after losing 3 navigators attempting to breach your corridor pattern. You've given us a decisive strategic advantage. You've become something unprecedented. A living navigation system. Your consciousness maintains a permanent connection to the Lacale corridor. Ships passing through report unprecedented stability. You're still guiding them, even from here. I laugh, or cry. The sound fractures into harmonics. So I'm infrastructure now. You're a hero. Solace's expression suggests she actually believes this. And we need you to train others. This recruit, Foster, has a compatible pattern. Not inverse like yours, but close enough to potentially navigate complex corridors with proper guidance. Foster shifts nervously, and I can see his past overlaid on his present. Institutionalization at 15, medication failures, the desperate hope that military service means purpose instead of just different walls. He looks at me the way I must have looked at Morrison's video, horror and recognition mixed. Can you speak to him? Morgan asks gently. He needs to understand what's ahead. I focus on Foster, try to collapse my perception to just one version of him. The effort makes my nose bleed again, a constant drip now. What's your anchor? I ask. I'm sorry? Foster's voice cracks. The thing that keeps you grounded when reality goes sideways. Everyone has one. He pulls out a photo, worn at the edges. His sister, maybe. Or girlfriend. Someone who exists outside the institutional walls. Her name's Marie. She writes me letters. Good. Hold on to that. The horizon will try to take everything, but it can't take what you won't let go. I try to reach for my pocket, where my anchor coin should be, but remember I gave it to Tam. The absence feels like freedom. They'll tell you the damage is necessary, that becoming this is heroic. Maybe it is, but you get to choose how you break. Wilson, Havel interrupts. Perhaps we should focus on practical training. This is practical. I turn back to Foster, or try to. Spatial relationships are more suggestion than fact now. Every jump will take something from you, pieces of who you were. But here's what they don't tell you. You get to decide what replaces those pieces. Morrison let the horizon fill him completely. I chose to stay partially human. You'll have to choose too. How? Foster asks. How do you choose when your mind is coming apart? Tam answers before I can. You don't choose alone. That's what the buddy system is really for. Not just to pull you back from the horizon, but to remind you who you're coming back to. He holds up my anchor coin. Wilson gave me this before his last jump. Trusted me to be his anchor when he couldn't trust himself. That's how we survive this. Not alone, but together. Foster looks between us, and I see him calculating whether connection is worth the risk of loss. I remember that calculation before my first jump, when holding myself separate seemed safer than trusting anyone. I'll train him. The words come out clearer than anything I've said in days. But not Havel's way, not as a tool to be optimized until it breaks, as a person who happens to be broken in useful ways. Havel starts to object, but Solace raises a hand. Wilson's earned the right to his methods. Foster, you'll report here daily for training. Wilson will teach you the real protocols, not just the technical ones. They file out, Solace satisfied, Havel frustrated. Foster terrified but determined. Morgan follows but pauses at the door. "For what it's worth," she says, "you're the first navigator to maintain this much coherence past H-index 4. Whatever you and Tam are doing, keep doing it." When they're gone, Tam helps me to the window. The city beyond exists in multiple states, past, present and futures that might never happen. But through it all, I can see the horizon, feel the Lacaille corridor. Ships pass through it regularly now, riding the pattern I became. "Do you regret it?" Tam asks. I think about Morrison, experiencing eternal now. About Jones, scattered across realities. About all the navigators who'll come after us, recruited from wards and shaped into weapons that think they're heroes. Then I think about the 4,000 people who made it through Lacaille because I chose to dissolve into the corridor rather than fight it. Ask me again when I can tell which version of you is asking. He laughs, soft and sad. Want me to count? No. I press my hand to my pocket, feel the absence where the coin should be. That empty space has become my new anchor. Not an object, but a choice. The choice to trust Tam's voice over my own perception. To believe in a reality I can't fully access anymore. To teach Foster that breaking doesn't mean broken, just rebuilt different. Actually, I say, watching 3 versions of sunset happen simultaneously. Tell me about before, when reality was solid. Help me remember what that felt like. Tam starts talking about his life before recruitment, his family, his breakdown, the ward where we never met but could have. His voice weaves through my fractured perception like thread through cloth, stitching moments together into something almost like coherence. Tomorrow Foster will come back, and I'll teach him to navigate the spaces between sanity and necessity. I'll show him how to ride the horizon without losing himself completely. How to use counting and texture and human connection as anchors when reality becomes negotiable. How to choose his breaking points instead of letting them choose him. I'm not the hero Solace thinks I am. Not the tool Havel wanted. Not the cautionary tale Foster sees. I'm just someone who learned that sometimes the only way through is to let yourself break in exactly the right pattern. To become the key that fits the lock, even if it means never being whole again. The sun sets in 3 different colors. Tam keeps talking, his voice steady as counting. My pocket remains empty, a space where certainty used to live. I chose this. That's the only anchor I need.